an agenda.
Oh my gosh.
So it's going to be, this is kind of meeting part 2 from yesterday's meeting with Stephanie. So it's going to be the same in that we're going to follow the same protocol, but it's going to be different in the sense that we already did a lot of like the overview of our Circle Wave 2 data yesterday, so we don't necessarily need to do that part again. So it's going to be like a little bit expedited version of that protocol. But first, welcome. Thanks for being here again. I really enjoyed spending time with you guys yesterday and doing a protocol that was specifically meant for pre-K, which we don't get to do all that often. Hey! So that was really exciting and fun. So really quickly going over, these are just the KIP Dream data norms. These are the same ones we talk about every day we have a day-to-day. And so just really quickly we have don't take it personally, stay solution-oriented, exercise empathy, say what's hard with love, seek first to understand, all the children are ours, which means all the data belongs to all of us. So just some things to kind of norm and frame our meeting this morning. Like I said, this is going to be kind of an expedited version. We don't have to necessarily go through every single step we went through yesterday. So, awesome. Today's protocol, we already collected all of our data, which is step 1, so that's great. Step 2, identifying areas of success of an improvement. We really dug into that yesterday, but can I have someone popcorn out, a couple people popcorn out some of our glows we talked about yesterday?
Well, we always said, like, as a school, we're doing really well with our math. Like, we've met on a lot of, or we're about to meet a lot of our math goals, both KIPs and CLIs.
Yep. Awesome. What was one more glow that we talked about yesterday?
There was growth in some of the PPA skills, which have been a focus for us. So like facilitation, onset, and rhyme.
Yep.
There's over 20% growth, so that was good.
Great. And then can I have my 2 other friends, can you each popcorn out one of the grows we talked about yesterday?
A grow, vocabulary, letter naming,
Definitely.
rhyming.
Rhyming, yeah, that's good, because that's the one we spent all of our time with yesterday. So we can actually turn the page and moving on to the next step, which is step 3. So today we are going to focus specifically on letter sound correspondence, which is another really important one. And we talked a lot yesterday about the kind of correlation that we believe there is to be between rhyming and being able to produce sounds correctly. And we found a lot of connections between that. So we're going to take a look at the second box on page 2. And we're going to look at the standards that correlate to the letter sounds correspondence in the circle assessment. We're going to talk about gaps and then think about some hypotheses for gaps. So I'm going to do, let's just take 1 minute, read through the standards, start thinking through as far as what gaps you think students might have as to why we were performing at 27% mastery this wave 2. All right, everyone want to share out one thought as to a gap that we have observed or we think students may have regarding letter sound correspondence?
Well,
go ahead.
when we did the assessment, we had only taught a few sounds. So like we just
We were testing.
Yeah, we just started too late teaching the sounds. So maybe by the next round, they should be a lot higher.
Yep. I struggle with the difference between gaps and hypothesis for gaps because they're kind of the same thing for me.
They go together.
So one of the things that I put down is that they don't, like we didn't even teach them letter names coming up to this. So they really, like that whole lack of exposure is they look at that weird shape thing on the screen and they're like, and what's that supposed to be? Let alone knowing what the letter itself is, or the sound itself is. Great.
I bet that we weren't focusing on small groups as much, and now we are. So now we can like focus on those students that need those extra practice.
Got it.
My thoughts are basically the same. Just we didn't have enough exposure. Now that we are starting the letter sounds and we can do our small group, and the next wave they'll do even better.
I was also kind of wondering if, because a lot of our kids are ELLs, because the letter sounds in Spanish and in English aren't the same necessarily.
Right.
So they're used to making these other sounds, and our sounds can be a little confusing.
Definitely. I think that's definitely something to think about. In kindergarten, I would always, what was it? The Y. They would always want to say for the sound E for the Y. And I'm like, well, you're not wrong, but, you know. So definitely that's something to keep in mind and think about for sure. So what I hear that we said for gaps and hypothesis for gaps, we'll just kind of push them together, was students aren't able to identify names and sounds, potentially because we had just begun teaching the names and sounds of the letters in January as according to our curriculum. Which would also equate to lack of exposure because they hadn't been exposed to them yet explicitly. Small group instruction wasn't as much of a focus in the first semester as it has been and will continue to be this semester. And then that also the majority of our students are English language learners, and so the language barrier and the differences and similarities that letter names and sounds have between English and Spanish could definitely be impacting them. Awesome. Any questions? Anything else to add? Cool. So, step 3, analyze the standards. Moving on to step 4. So, same exact procedure we did yesterday. First thing we're going to do before we talk about grouping students is we need to talk about what does it mean for a student to be not yet, what does it mean if a student kind of gets it, what does it mean if a student mostly gets it, and what does it mean if a student, like, they've got it mastery. So, everybody take about a minute and kind of think down, you're welcome to write it down too underneath. What each section, what each type of group would mean for you. Guess the timer's up. Cool. So who wants to share out and tell me more about like what would qualify a student to belong in each one of our groups?
I was thinking by the color, but if you're going off of this column, it's not colored, right?
So colors directly from the circle assessment.
Can we use that?
Well, I don't think they weren't,
Because they're not
this one
colored.
doesn't count.
Yeah.
This
So
time.
like the highest is just 12, right? The points, so we could break it up by points or something.
Well, that's how I did it yesterday.
Yeah.
But in this case, I did it by since circle requires 20 letter sounds known, I just broke mine up into that kind of category. So 0 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, and 16 to 20, which probably isn't fair since they can only, at this point, get 12 correct.
Well, oh, that's true. And I think it depends. Like, I think it's okay too if we're like basing our current groups off of end of year goals. I think that's fine. We also want to take into consideration that we haven't necessarily taught them all of the letters and sounds yet. So it's kind of like, so I think we could approach it as like from based on their end of year goal. We could also approach it based off of like what we've taught so far.
Yeah.
I think there's lots of different
That's
approaches.
what I
you can
said.
take.
So like not yet. I said they haven't learned any of the sounds I already taught. Kind of get it. They've learned some. Mostly get it. They've learned all the sounds we've already taught, and the ones that they've got it, they know more than the sounds that we've already taught.
Bless you. So they already have some like prior knowledge. Okay. What were you thinking about, Michelle?
Well, I was almost like her, but I was like, because they've got it, I was like, they know all the sounds and mostly get it. They're close to knowing all the sounds, and then kind of get it, learn some sounds, and no, not yet. They don't know any.
Cool.
Like, none of the sounds.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking along those lines as well. I think at the end of the day, whatever is the easiest way for you to manage your students in the groups they're in, that's totally your call. And so feel free that it's okay. Like if the way you're grouping your kids doesn't look exactly the same as your neighbor, that's totally fine. Cool. Anyone have any questions or anything else to add about that? Great. So then go ahead and start. I know that's like the fun part. So go ahead and we'll do, I'll put 4 minutes on the clock. And then if we need a few more minutes when we're done, we can take a few more minutes. So go ahead and start grouping your kiddos into those groups.